exciting. We're so happy to be chatting with both of you. And just what a season.
I know. And congratulations, first and foremost.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
and
much.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, happy
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Do you guys have plans?
We do. We have a couples mani-pedi this evening.
Yes, we do. And I have a haircut. We have a couple's mani-pedi. And we're doing a little grooming day.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so what's Theo doing today?
Buddy, Theo.
First,
He's just out the background.
You want a treat?
Theo is the best looking dog on Bravo.
I know. I'm sure y'all get that all the time.
You see how he listens to us so well?
Yeah.
He's looking at me like, fuck you, Dad. I'm not allowed to say that.
He was right behind us, but then when we rearranged the table, he got kicked out.
Oh.
Now he's just moping and pouting in his bed.
He's such a good dog. Like, we were watching it, me and my partner, and he was like, Theo is so well behaved.
He's so good. We were just walking yesterday evening in our neighborhood and met this young couple, probably our age, and they had maybe a 15, 16-month-old. And Theo, gently, slowly walked up to the stroller.
Yeah.
Is just, kind of sniffing the baby, gives the baby some space, lets the baby touch it.
It was a lot of
great.
It was a lot of foreshadowing for us. We're kind of testing the water, seeing how we get little kids.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
To interact with Amrit's nanny, and she would feed him bananas in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
He was so ginger with her. I mean, he wouldn't. There were no quick movements, and sometimes if you offer a dog a treat, they will very quickly take the treat out of your hand just because they want the treat. But I mean, at 94, she couldn't have quick movements like that, and he was just perfect with her.
He's angelic.
Yeah, dogs know. They know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of babies and kids, Amrit, you said foreshadowing. How's the journey going with that?
It's certainly a journey. Journey is one of the words you can use to describe our baby making process. We are certainly in the early stages. Viewers have gotten an insight into the preliminary stages of what it takes to have a baby as a gay couple, and not just as a gay couple. I think it's universal. I would even implore men who are in heterosexual relationships, get your sperm tested. You never know, right? The older you get, you never know. So we're in the early stages of that journey. We haven't ruled out adoption. We haven't ruled out surrogacy. We're still trying to navigate the very choppy waters.
It said to Amrit when we were initially discussing surrogacy, let's be realistic. IVF and surrogacy for many couples, it takes multiple tries. And I said to him, I think 3 years is a pretty realistic time frame for us to have a child in our arms.
And I'm doing the math on how old I'll be.
I know.
And maybe I'm collecting Social Security by the time it's 8.
Yeah. And I mean, both of our parents are in prime mobility right now.
Yeah.
And they're just in like the golden years of retirement. So we want to move as quickly as we can so that we capitalize on them. I want to see my parents get on the floor and crawl around with a child. And I want my mom to have the opportunity to knit that child clothes. She is a very talented and very prolific knitter. And I watched her do that for some of my cousins. And I thought, I like this. I got a little jealous. And I'm ready for some of those clothes.
Yeah. So we know that we know that it's going to be done. Just how we do it is still a big question mark, but we know that it will be done, hopefully.
Yeah.
I actually have a question because you are letting us into so many intimate parts of your life that I'm sure you never planned before this whole journey, doing this journey with a bunch of viewers. What has been kind of the most unexpected, I guess, part of this whole reality show journey with letting people into your relationship? Or maybe it's all unexpected.
Sometimes you're balancing so many agendas when you're filming, because you are letting people into some of the most intimate conversations in your relationship and making you're balancing. I need to be me. And you still want to guard some of your privacy, but you want to be raw and you want to be fully present in those conversations while there are cameras. And you're not necessarily thinking about a viewer when you film, but when you watch the episode, then you're thinking, oh my gosh,
what is Twitter going to say?
What is
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
right.
I think for me, and maybe this is both unexpected and something I'm super grateful for. Going into this, I figured that being on TV means that you're going to hear your voice and you're going to see how you speak and your mannerisms. You're going to be like, wow, I am a big weirdo and I sound like a weirdo. That was expected. The unexpected part for me was basically getting like an outside perspective of Amrit. So Amrit, and when I live my day to day, we're all in our own heads. What, 90% of the time? We are just living in our beautiful minds. And you don't really get an outside perspective of how you are and the things you do with the things you say. And rewatching some of this season has given me a completely new perspective into how things proceeded, especially when it came to the wedding and, which viewers are going to see very soon, and the process that went hand in hand with the wedding.
You don't necessarily know how much your face reveals in conversations that really count until you have this wonderful perspective of a reality show to let you see, that's what your face looked like when you made that comment. Mm-hmm. This was your body language during this conversation. This is what your eyes did. And sometimes it's saddening because in those difficult conversations, there's so much emotion that goes into it. And you just forget how much of communication isn't coming from your mouth. It's coming from your language and the rest of how you present yourself.
It's like holding up a mirror in these really intense situations. I mean, I'm thinking about the discussion you had in the park with Theo about last names. I'm thinking about in this last episode, the post-dinner dessert and drinks with Amrit's parents. How and everything else. Is there anything from this season that you guys have seen back and been like, I would have done that differently, or I would have done this exactly the same, no matter what?
In the conversation with Amrit's parents at our wedding venue, where we were digesting the meet and greet with my parents, that went really well. Things got heated, and I used foul language twice, and I didn't necessarily realize the profound effect that would have on Amrit. As we rewatched the episode, I gathered how much that irritated him and how he thought it was crass and uncouth. It just didn't. I don't usually use foul language around his parents. Yeah.
There are always going to be things that you watch and you would do differently. Again, it goes back to that outside perspective. So now for me, seeing it as a viewer, I'm thinking, wow, I maybe wasn't listening to Nicholas as much as I should have been, throughout this process. Maybe I was so focused on trying my obsession with having this big Indian wedding because that's what I grew up seeing and that's what I wanted to model. Maybe it went back to issues that I'm still struggling with my sexual orientation. It could be a variety of things. And unfortunately, it's a little too late to go back and change how things went down. But the more important thing is that we continue to have conversations about what happened and how we could make sure that doesn't happen going forward. Not make the same mistakes now that we're so fortunate to be able to see this play out on TV.
Yeah.
And what has, I could imagine, but what has the feedback been from like the gay community?
It's heartwarming to receive messages and I was going to say instant messages. DM.
No, I'm with the instant
We're
messages
all about the
kind of
IM.
era. Yeah, I'm back there. I'm not up here.
It's really heartwarming to receive messages showing support from other interracial couples, interfaith couples,
and not just gay, straight couples too.
Yeah.
A lot of the issues we were facing, again, they're universal. sure, we're a gay couple, but a lot of like our heterosexual friends told us that they were facing the same issues with the whole interracial
even within the brown community. I receive messages from heterosexual couples. Maybe it is a Bengali marrying a Punjabi, or a Gujarati marrying a South Asian. And customs are really different. And, ours wasn't the only marriage that brought together two different cultures. And it was just really apparent of that in the messages that I received.
I think at the end of the day, it's important for us, to answer your question, the response has been incredible, but it's important to us to make sure that we're representing our communities accurately. Not that this is just the South Asian community, but also the LGBT community, because listen, Respect for Marriage Act just passed. I mean, we're in 2023 and that passed less than 6 months ago, which is mind blowing. And it's important for people to see that piece of legislation applied to us. Why is marriage equality so important? I mean, it's much more than just having that big wedding. Sure, that's part of it, but it's the recognition, it's the acknowledgement from the outside world, from our extended families, from our networks, that we are married, and we have that same commitment and that level of bond to one another. So,
and the same protections we are now afforded that a heterosexual couple is afforded.
So it's been great. We love our viewers, we love our fan base. For the most part, there's some Twitter heat and hate, and we could go into that later after a few notes. But it's really positive.
That's great. Amrit, you said in this last episode, when you were sort of debriefing with your parents at the end of the night, you said like, I wish we had eloped instead of having this wedding. Now that the wedding has happened, we're 8 months later, or even almost a year later. Do you still feel the same about that? Would you have done things differently?
No, absolutely not. That's an easy question. The answer is a hard no. I would not have eloped. The wedding, as viewers will see shortly, was the wedding of our dreams. It is, wedding, it's expensive and it's stressful and all of these differences surface and all of these conflicts surface, but it is the one time in your life where your worlds collide and people that you care about, are there to celebrate you. And there were just so many moments from that weekend that I wouldn't give it up for the world. You can't put a price tag on those moments. So no eloping. No eloping.
Nicholas, what did you think when Amrit told you, I am thinking of going on a reality show?
We had just gotten back together after almost a 2-year hiatus, if you'll call it. And I was fully expecting to see us ride into the sunset, me as a teacher, him as an attorney, get a house or a condo, have kids, and that would be our life. And I'm not a real glitz and glam person. I'm not really fond of being center stage. When he told me this, I wasn't exactly excited, but I looked at it from a different perspective. Amrit was so incredibly supportive of me when I said, after dating for 3 years, that I wanted to switch careers, and that would take me with New York University to our campus in Spain and then the main campus in New York City. And there was never a point where he said, don't do this, I'm going to miss you, and this will be the end of us. He never said that. It was nothing but support. So all I've done with Family Karma has been to be really supportive. Dreams morph. Just like people change, people evolve. A dream can too, because the dream is to be with this guy.
Sweet. That's what we need to hear on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You'll hear it in my vows. I think that will be the season finale where you can listen to our vows.
Oh my God. I feel like I'm going to need like 3 boxes of tissues around me. I'm so glad I just think it was really interesting with the wedding process, kind of seeing like the vows were really important to you, Nicholas, and it's not something you typically see or I haven't seen in South Asian weddings. It's like, we do the whole long mandap thing and then it's over.
Yeah.
So did you feel like in the end, the things that you really wanted in the wedding happened the way you wanted them to?
Yes, there were. Yes, I had expressed that I wanted to do vows,
Mm-hmm.
and we're there are two people in this relationship, and we come from very different traditions, and there were by the end of wedding planning season, I started to feel like the expectation was that Nicholas compromise more than Amrit's family was willing to compromise themselves. I felt like all that compromise was incumbent on me.
Yeah.
And it started to feel unrealistic. A wedding is comprised of two different parties, and it can't be all the traditions of one of those parties, almost to the exclusion or of the other party. And you see that come to a head during the conversation where we debrief from my parents, from the meet and greet with my parents.
Yeah. Well, we said this on one of our recaps, actually. I think it was with Mary, that weddings and wedding planning, I mean, these are issues that would have come up in your relationship at some point anyway. And it's sort of like an opportunity to work through some of these like things that, will inevitably come up again with your children, with all sorts of parts of family life and being together. And so, yeah, I think this happens to a lot of couples during this stage of like transition in their relationships.
I think that this will be something that we will navigate for the rest of our lives. And I think it's each of our duty and our obligation to recognize where compromise is needed. And there's a part of me that wonders, do I need to compromise or entertain every single tradition? I'm not entirely settled on where I fall with that.
Yeah, I think it became a little, the waters were a little muddy towards the end, because I guess when we went into this process, we had talked about it. Do you want to do it at a church? And it's not like we foreclosed on those options, but he didn't want to do one. So we sort of went into it knowing this would be a little bit more on the Indian side of things. And then we, got ahead of ourselves and it became like really Indian. So I think it was just managing a lot of expectations. My folks we wanted my folks to be involved with the process. They said, if you don't want us to be involved, I said, well, no. And I think a lot of it was me not communicating properly with him. And we run into that a lot, that I'm communicating with my parents and then I communicate with him. But when in your mind, you assume that the people that you're communicating with are communicating with each other. Like I wasn't communicating with him properly what I was communicating with my parents, and vice versa. So I sort of was like just assuming that everyone was on the same page with a lot of things. And, we realized that we weren't on the same page with a lot of things. And
I think the viewers are probably able to intuit in the episode that aired last week. It wasn't necessarily a united front between Amrit and I. Mm-hmm. It was a united front between Amrit and his parents. And that was disappointing for me to see, because the wedding happened, the discussion happened, resolution obviously happened. And I know what was said during those conversations where I was present. I don't know what was said in those private conversations until I watched the episode. Yeah. And it was dismaying. Part of it was just incredibly disappointing. There are 4 people who were involved with planning this wedding, and 4 people who brought decades of lived experiences and baggage. Mm-hmm. But I felt like my baggage was the only baggage being discussed. When I listened to Amrit's dad say, well, I'm going to be really logical about this, and it's not personal, but all of the issues that Nicholas brings to the table, they're not our responsibility.
Yeah.
That was hurtful. It took a lot to get over that. And I didn't necessarily feel like Amrit's parents were willing, aware to realize you have your own issues here. But I didn't necessarily feel like they were willing to admit, hey, we bring some baggage here too. And no one said that.
I think I couldn't imagine going through that experience and then rewatching it with the world and having input from social media about it. Did it feel like you were experiencing it, like, not for lack of a better word, like more intensely the second time while watching it?
Yeah, we definitely had it was an interesting 24 hours after the episode aired between the two of us.
And you don't get to see screeners before?
No.
No, I mean,
We get the
okay.
episode
yeah, I mean,
about a day before, maximum
Okay.
48 hours before. So
Okay.
we're basically watching it real time with you guys almost.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's a lot.
it was an unpleasant weekend.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
very unpleasant.
and I told them don't go on Twitter.
Yes.
Yes, smart.
This episode was the first episode where of this season where I said I'm not going to look at Twitter. Just for your own mental health. I mean, there are positive messages, and I bet there's a boatload of.
But again, listen, that's what we signed up for.
Yeah,
that comes
totally.
hand in hand with being on reality TV. It's all not fun and games. It's all not roses. You know, these are the real issues that we're dealing with, and that hopefully will resonate with people because they're dealing with similar issues as well. So you got to have thick skin. If you don't have thick skin, you probably shouldn't be on a reality TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for allowing us into your lives this way, because it's not easy. Even if you have a thick skin, it's like, it's going to affect you. Like you said, you had a bad weekend afterwards. Like, that's a part of your real life and everything. And speaking of like the strength of your relationship going forward, knowing that there's always going to be challenges, I think that's like really healthy and great to hear you guys say. It brings me to the controversial comments that Anisha made about the longevity of your relationship on Watch What Happens Live. A lot of people want to know your reaction to that.
Okay, so I was a little caught off guard by that. She never heard her express that opinion about us. And, you know, with all due respect, Anisha has been with her guy for a hot minute. So I don't know what necessarily makes her the guru of marriage. And not that she's saying she is, but to poo-poo on our marriage and Michelle and Richa, like, we've each been with our respective partners for over 10 years, and we've shown the world the conflict that we have with each other. We haven't really seen that with her. But listen, at the end of the day, sure, I was caught a little bit off guard, but I am the type of person that says, if you can, don't dish it if you can't take it. And I have certainly expressed my opinions on reality, on prior seasons about Anisha. I did so season 1. It put us in a bad place. And she's entitled to her opinion. If that's what she thinks, that we're not going to last, then that's her opinion, and you're allowed to say that. You know, you can't hate her for it. But we'll see what happens with her, man. I mean, let's talk in 10 years, sweetie. Let's talk in 10 years.
Oh.
It did sting a bit when Anisha made the comment on Watch What Happens Live, saying, you know, that our marriage wouldn't last. It stung.
Yeah.
And
that brings me to actually a question from a viewer wants to know who's changed the most since season 1, for the better or the worse.
Honestly, we've all changed.
Yeah.
We've all changed. I mean, I know people on Watch What Happens Live have pinpointed one person or the other, but I think we've all changed. We all like the spotlight. And I told you fine, that's utter bullshit, you know?
You can't receive all of this attention without it. Some of it goes to your head. And I mean, sometimes the negative thoughts that you think about other cast members, you take a step back and think, I never would have thought this years ago, 4 years ago. But now that you've been in the limelight for a hot second, here we are.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's unique to Amrit and I. I think that transcends the whole cast.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think we've all changed the most. Listen, you got to have a certain personality to be on reality TV. And that certain personality is that you're semi-conceited, you're a little bit narcissistic, totally into yourself. And that is all of us on Family Karma. So whichever cast member tells you they're not, again, that's utter bullshit.
That is so funny and like so refreshing just to hear you admit it.
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah,
totally, you know me. Listen, the one thing I don't say what I think people want to hear. I say what I truly believe. I got that from my mom, as we've seen on this series. She kind of just wears her heart on her sleeve, and
Yes. Oh my gosh. Nicholas, how are your parents? It sounds like, your comments you made earlier about wanting them to be able to play with your kids and stuff. I mean, that to me screams like acceptance, love, like lots of
yeah.
good things. How are things?
I feel like I need to clear the air somewhat with respect to my parents, and I want to guard their privacy. But I did not grow up in a loveless household. My
Yes.
parents showered my sister and I with love, and both of my parents were very present and very intentional throughout my entire childhood. And since my parents met Amrit, 10 years ago, they have showered him with gifts. I can't, I couldn't count the number of care packages that received with handmade things from my
Oh,
mom, food items, Christmas gifts, Valentine's gifts. Just it's always been a very, very positive dynamic with them. I think what last season 3 really focuses on our wedding, and it was a very delicate dance that I did with my parents, with them not wanting to play a certain role for the wedding, but 100% supporting me. And I don't say that they're not supporting Umrith, but they wanted to be there for me. I
yeah.
recently was talking on the phone with my mom, and she was hurt to
Mm,
watch this past episode. She said, "It looks like you grew up in a loveless household." I mean,
yeah.
that that killed me.
it was a
Because
big, yeah.
it just couldn't be farther from the truth.
Yeah.
No, we walk. I'm trying. This is difficult to talk about. Um, my she asked me, did you think that we were going to abandon you? And she cursed and she said, hell no, would we want to abandon you? And hell no, will we abandon you? Um, we're in a really good spot with my parents.
That's
They
great.
came and visited for 3 weeks. It was their first time in Miami, and
Yeah, we are in a very good
it
spot with
was
them.
it was an amazing trip. Um,
I call them mama and papa. I said,
Oh,
say mama and papa.
yeah, it was just a really positive trip. They stayed with us. They split their time between our condo and an Airbnb, and they had specifically asked that.
yeah.
We'd like to stay part of the time in an Airbnb and part of the time with you guys. They were walking distance from the Airbnb, or it was like a 3-minute walk from our apartment to their Airbnb. And in the mornings, I would go pick my mom up on the way to the dog park to walk Theo.
Oh,
They would come back and they would hang out with us for the entire day. They interacted with Umrit's parents a ton. And at the end of their trip, they were the way that they said goodbye to each other was my dad initiated a goodbye with Suresh. And I don't want to entirely betray his confidence and his privacy, but the way that he said goodbye to Suresh and Lavina was so genuine and expressed love. And
yeah.
it just warmed my heart. I mean, I was riding, I was on cloud 9 for a couple months after they left, just marveling at how worried I was about my parents and where we are now. We're in a good
That
spot.
is beautiful. And I just want to say that I think watching it from my perspective, was not coming away at all thinking you came from a loveless household. I heard you saying loud and clear, like, I grew up with a lot of love in my life. And, that really came through for me. And I would imagine it did for other viewers as well.
Same.
To hear my parents refer to Amrit as their child, to hear my parents
Yeah.
use the word love with Amrit and with his parents, we're in a good spot.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you got a chance to say that here and that people will hear that. So we have to wrap up now. We could talk for like so much longer. There's so many more
It's been
questions,
lovely.
but Thank you so much for taking the time
Thank
to
you.
do this. Thanks for sharing your story. We really are keeping our fingers crossed for season 4.
Yes. Are you allowed to say when and if we find out, or?
We have no idea.
Yeah.
We're optimistic, we're hopeful, we're praying for it, we're crossing our fingers, but we know just as much as you guys do. But hopefully it'll happen, and hopefully we can.
And maybe a reunion, or
I don't know.
any
Time will tell. We'll have to
Yeah.
see. We just want to continue telling our story, and we're so appreciative of Bravo and the network for giving us that opportunity. We really are grateful for them. So hopefully a long future for Family Karma. But you guys, honestly, thank you so much.
Yeah,
We
thank
you.
how
Oh,
active
of
you guys,
course.
how much
Thank
you
you.
pay for our show. So we really appreciate it.
Y'all are the best.
You
Yeah,
are the
thank you
best.
so much.
Sending you both so much love and a big hug.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much for letting us into your life.
And I saw Theo, and I love that dog.
Yes. And happy Valentine's Day to him.
Happy Valentine's Day,
Yes.
you guys.
True King.
Excited.
Bye.
Bye-bye.